Hi, I'm John Thomas. I wish I had a inspirational, thoughtful story for you, something that would be inspiring and feel good, but I don't. This story is a dark 10-year struggle and descent into addiction that resulted in death of my oldest daughter. Lauren started her life in a privileged home. She had loving family, parents that often doted on her. There was very little that she wanted or needed. She grew up around a country club, swam, played, danced, sang. She had a charmed childhood. The reason that I bring this up is oftentimes in speeches and in things that we talk in family share groups, sometimes people say, well, that'll never happen to my daughter. She's from a good family. She's a good kid. So was mine. By the time Lauren got to be 14 years old, we had decided that she had had a Catholic education at a parochial school, one of the best in the city. It offered a strong faith-based curriculum, good kids, a strong neighborhood, a lot of family support. It was a good place for a good kid to learn. It was college preparatory based. Almost all of the kids went on to college, and we thought this was a good start for her. But it might have been a little too much. Lauren struggled academically. And by the time she got till 8th, 9th grade, it started to wear on her. The mean girls started to be a little bit louder. The doubts and the self-affirmation became a little bit bigger. Lauren had a lot of friends. She had a lot of support. She had almost, it seemed like a charmed life, but she never seemed to have the confidence that she needed. She always seemed like she was looking for something else. She had a little sister. She took care of her, doted on her, and her little sister looked up to her as a big sister that would help her and lead her on her path to adulthood. Lauren had high hopes. We had high hopes. Oftentimes, though, we find that our hopes for our children are not theirs. Our fantasy of what we want our kids to be sometimes is the opposite of what they want. By the time Lauren was in junior in high school, school was becoming crushing, and we had to make a decision. What do we do? Do we send her to the public school where she had programs that would be a little more catered to her? We could build the curriculum around her strengths and give her that confidence back, lead her in a little bit better scenario that she could handle the academic load. It's at this time we began to notice Lauren's appearance started to change. She was 17 years old. A person that was meticulous about her appearance. She always thought she would go into cosmetology. Now, often was unkept, dirty. She began to lose weight, a lot of weight. But there was always an excuse. And as parents, we always thought, not our child, not my little girl. We would find paraphernalia, pills. It was always somebody else. I had that for someone else, Dad. Mom, I don't know what that is. Someone must have stuck it in my bag. And we believed it. Not our little girl. By the time she had started her senior year in high school, the friends had changed. And it's important that we pay attention to this because we noticed it. The friend class, the people she hang with, the people she talked about, they were all different. They weren't the people she grew up with. They weren't the people she knew. her first big boyfriend almost got her killed. And we knew he was Brad, and we tried to tell her, these people are not looking out for you, Lauren. They're not your friends. Your friends don't put you in positions of harm. But these friends did, over and over and over. When that boyfriend finally left, she found a new one. Sorry about that. Our clicker's a little bit fuzzy. Even her behavior, her appearance, everything changed. It was no longer about her school and about a job and her future. It was about the party. Everything revolved around the rave, her employment, her free time was always the party. About 48% of us, according to scientific research, carries the genetic marker for addiction. That's almost 1 in 2. That doesn't mean that you're going to be an addict. What it means is you have the possibility to unlock that cage. Poor choices, behavior that stokes that fire, can all be a contributing factor that could lead you down that path. A lot of times when you talk to an addict, they use a phrase over and over again. They repeat to you that addiction is the allergy of the body, but it is an obsession of the mind. 24 hours a day. Addiction is a lot of different forms. It's gambling, it's food, it's gaming. A lot of parents that have young kids and they play that game all day long and you think, what's wrong with you? Why do you play this game for 14 hours a day? They might be addicted. It also includes pills, alcohol, chemicals. Addiction will take everything you love. It'll take your family, it'll take your self-esteem, it'll take your life. Late in her senior year in college, high school, Lauren met her true love. The murderer was amongst us, and we didn't know it. Lauren liked tattoos. She had a couple. They began to appear with a lot more frequency. First the left arm, then the right arm. These sleeves, they weren't art, they weren't an expression, they weren't an important moment in her life. It was camouflage. She was hiding the black track marks the poison had left in her arms. At this point, we did several interventions. It's where a family, everyone that's important to you, tells you why you're important to them, what they love most about you, in an effort for you to see through the veil that you've placed in front of all of the people that are important. We had several with Lauren. Those resulted in rehabilitation stays. In 10 years, Lauren went to rehabilitation 11 times. I'd cut off my own arm for a 12th. The problem was the boyfriend, he had the answers. She didn't want rehabilitation. He knew how to get her out. He knew how to tell her what to say to get her thrown out. Every chance we gave her, he worked actively against us. Why? Because the most important thing in an addict's life is being an addict. In 2019, the year my daughter died, there were 56,000 opiate-related deaths. The following year, In 2020, with the pandemic, that number had risen 30%, 76,000. Doesn't seem like a lot. But let's put this in context. There's 41,000 breast cancer deaths a year. We have runs, we have walks, baseball players have pink gloves, football players have pink cleats and pink footballs. Everybody knows about the breast cancer awareness. Half the number of opiate deaths. What's my color? Black? Like the marks on our arm? That's 106,000 people. By 2021, rehabilitation had shut down. Peer groups, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narconon, all of your support groups for addiction were no longer in person. 30% more. 106,000 deaths in 2021. It's stark. Imagine Michigan Stadium, Michigan State Stadium, even though it pains me to show this image. Empty, in the blink of an eye, 1 year. What's the number going to be this year? We don't know yet. It's guessing that it'll stay at 30%. That means 140,000. In 2018, Lauren was failing. The addiction had finally caught up with her. Some of these images are difficult, but you need to see them unfiltered. This is not television. This is not the movies. This is not Hollywood. This is reality, and this is what it looks like. She had vegetative bacterial infection. It destroyed her heart valve in her aorta. Why? Because the poison she put into her veins as a heroin addict was rotten. It was garbage. And she was going to die. There was no doubt. We tried multiple medical facilities, doctors, hospitals. Nobody would touch her. Why would they? She was an addict. It's not worth it. She has no value. She was my little girl. At the 11th hour, a doctor from Henry Ford Hospital in downtown Detroit accepted her as an experiment. He was going to use her as a teaching tool to teach other heart surgeons on how to replace a valve. He was one of the top 5 surgeons in the world, and he did it. And he did it for no cost. And he did it because he said, if it was my little girl, I would do it. Lauren was 25 years old, open heart surgery. There was a caveat. She had to find rehabilitation. No more heroin, no more marijuana, nothing. It was at this time we found out that Lauren started her drug career with marijuana. I used to drive her to school. And she would come in the front door, and she would walk down the hallway and go right out the back door. And she would spend her day getting high and running around town. And when we looked at the admittance sheet and she had written down what she had done, it was pretty hard to find something she had not done, which was rather stunning. If she returned to the drug culture, her incidence of mortality was 100%. If the artificial valve became infected again, there was no savior. There was no 11th hour end around. Lauren talked me into methadone, synthetic heroin. I was against it. My wife was against it. She had told us, "Daddy, I've been to rehab 11 times and you don't understand. Withdrawal for me is like you're peeling my skin off. I would rather die than go through a withdrawal." And she meant it. Withdrawal, she was more afraid of withdrawal than dying. I finally agreed. I agreed to be her drug dealer. And every morning I would drive her at 6:30 in the morning to the methadone clinic, and I would watch mothers with kids in baby seats, executives with ties and briefcases in a Mercedes, a man in a work truck with his hard hat on pull into this clinic, and they'd all go in to get their fix for the day. This image was usually followed by what you see on the screen. Less than 10 minutes after she would leave that door, she was unconscious in the back seat of my car. The initial plan was for Lauren to step down at the methadone clinic, to take 5 milligrams less every 2 weeks until she had taken it down to nothing and she could walk away and gain her life back. She could break free of the demons that were killing her. After 10 weeks, she was worse than when she began. I went into the clinic one day and I said, "Why does my daughter look like this? What are you doing?" And they wouldn't talk to me. So I threatened to call the state. This is not medicine. This is murder. They agreed. And I found that Lauren had started the methadone clinic at 35 milligrams a dose. Her current dose was 80. 80, more than double. It was the last time I took her. They were more interested in my $110 every Friday than they were about helping this child break free of addiction. An addict on heroin, an opiate addict, has no cognitive thought unless they are free of opiates for 6 months. And you think about that. When you go to rehabilitation, oftentimes you come in, they keep you for 48 hours until you feel better, and then they send you back home to manage your own care. You're gonna be your own doctor. You're gonna attend meetings, you're gonna set up your own recovery plan. You cannot have cognitive relative thought for 6 months. Your brain will not heal from the damage for 3 years. Up in the left-hand corner, you see a brain on heroin. It's almost completely blue. It's from the dopamine that heroin causes your body to release, the feel-good drug. The bottom right-hand corner is what a normal brain looks like after 3 years. We got a call one day after we had not seen Lauren for several weeks, maybe even a month. Their mother used to have these intuitions that something was wrong. We would go to her boyfriend's house and be told she wasn't there. She was there. He just didn't want us to see her. We'd have the police come for a welfare check, and she would magically appear, disheveled, hair matted to her face, dirty. She maybe weighed 80 pounds. Later on that month, we got a telephone call from the hospital that Lauren was intensive care. The boyfriend had dumped her at the front door and left her. The nurses recognized her from previous visits, and they called us. When we arrived, she had hours to live. It was at that time that we decided to discuss with her what her end-of-life choices were going to be. What could we do that she would like because there was no doubt that she was going to die. My wife and I formed a plan. We thought, let's take the dogwood tree that we planted when you were born, and we put it outside your window so you could see it bloom every year on your birthday in March. And we'll take a piece of that tree and a piece of you, and we'll grow a new tree so you can be with us forever. And she liked that idea. Lauren died at 10:13 on a Thursday. Bright blue sky, sunny. She had broken free for the first time in 10 years from the demons that shackled her to this addiction. No more pain, no more misery, no more brutal agony. 10 years, it was brutal agony. We built that garden. That tree grows.
Where are you now when darkness seems to win?
I thank you for listening.
Where are you now when the world is crumbling? Oh,
What do you take out of this?
You say,
as a parent,
I hear you say,
pay attention.
Child. Hey.
When things change, take note. When the friends are different, ask why. Don't believe the story. Question. And kids, why is it important that I show you this brutal story? This started when Lauren was 16 years old. When you're in 7th and 8th grade, you're 14. That's not too far from them. The most important thing that you can find out about a person is you look at their friends. Who are their friends? That's who defines who you are. Pay attention to who your friends are. There is nothing in this world, nothing worth being cool about when it will take your life. And this will take your life one time, and it owned her. And she never got free. Be smart.